Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast. Hey there, Karma Crew. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Mind Your Own Karma Beyond the Bandage. If you're listening to this episode, what that tells me about you is you're curious about unseen energies shaping your life, and you're ready to explore new ways of healing beyond the usual. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of auras and energetic healing with Samantha Brior, an aura reader, educator, and spiritual life coach who brings a unique blend of energy work and mental health experience. Together, we'll uncover the healing power your aura holds and how understanding it can help you shift what's holding you back. It's time to rip off the bandage. Let's dive in. Welcoming Samantha Brior to the show today. Hi, Samantha.
Hi.
Super excited about this conversation. I've had a little bit of, I've touched on auras a little bit myself and took a class eons ago, which was pretty interesting. But it kind of ended there. But I've always been super interested in it. So I'm happy to have you on the show and learn a little bit more about it and kind of get into the healing and emotional and the energetic part of it and everything. So I haven't explored any of that. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, no, excited to dive into this topic and hopefully answer some questions.
Yeah, perfect. How did you first discover your ability to read auras and what drew you into energy healing in the first place?
So this is actually a very funny story. I was going down my spiritual journey and path, and it had been about 2 years. And I just randomly one day I had to run to the store to get an outlet for a specific charger. And while I was at the store and picking up the charger, I passed a book on auras, and I immediately got the clairsentient chills, and I passed up the book. I was like, nah, you know what? That's fine. So I get home and it was one of those chargers where the outlet folds in. So I get home and I try to open it, and what do you know, it's stuck. So I'm like, okay, I have to go back to the store now. So I go back to the store, I return it, and I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm just gonna grab this book. And so I get home and after, few hours, I start reading it. And somewhere along the line, I took a break. And while I was washing my hands, I looked in the mirror and I could have sworn I started to see colors. And it was a bit of like off-putting. And so I just, went back to reading, didn't think anything of it. And then the same thing happened again. So then I started watching just different videos that like pull up on my reels and whatnot. And I started to see more colors. And then I started realizing, okay, I think there's something here. So I was just randomly watching videos online of people and the colors would change. And I was working with a coach at the time who was helping me to make sense of things that were happening during my awakening process. And she was like, okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. I want to see if you can see mine. And so it was something that I wasn't expecting. She FaceTimed me. I started reading for her and telling her what I saw. And it was, in fact, the same reading that she had gotten from another reader. And from then on, I was just like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to absorb as much information I can, like a sponge, to learn about this because my first thought was, this is an incredible way to help people because as I started reading more and learning more about the aura, it's so multidimensional with all the different layers and divisions and how it ties to your emotions and how we process things and how it can really go deep into helping people to understand and better themselves and really push through blocks that they may not even realize. So it was something that I didn't expect to happen, but it kind of just did. And I had always been drawn to helping people. I worked in mental health for many years. So it wasn't specifically the energy healing that drew me in. It was more or less, this is a great tool to help others and understand themselves on a more deeper level in a different way.
So when you see colors and you read someone, is it more the reading more like I'm seeing these colors and that's what the colors represent, or are you kind of almost like a medium, almost reading them that way as well?
So it's it's odd because I never know exactly how it's going to come through. So when I see certain colors, I will have to kind of rely on my intuition, my guides to kind of give me like a yes or no as far as what that color could possibly represent. Because if I see blue in an aura, it can mean a couple of different things, but I'll kind of have to, go back and forth, could it possibly mean this? But then I'll kind of get the inkling. I think it's more of this instead. So it's more or less to kind of help people as far as if they are feeling energetically blocked, if something just feels off. Because 9 times out of 10, when people come to me, it's more or less because something feels off. It's
Hmm.
never like, I'm in a great mood. I want to get my aura read. It's more or less like there's something happening and I can't make sense of why, or I'm in a funk and I don't know exactly what to do, or I just feel lost. And that's where we kind of go into the intricacies of the colors and what they're representing.
Okay, makes sense. And then you also kind of use your intuition as well, it sounds like.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So for listeners who might be unfamiliar, can you explain what an aura is and how it can reflect our emotional and energetic state?
Yeah. So, I mean, the best and I think easiest way to describe this is whenever you walk into a room, say you walk into this like beautiful restaurant and like music's playing, the lighting's perfect, and you're just like, I like the vibe of this place. Like that's essentially what your aura is. It's your vibe that you carry, it's your energetic vibration. And it can change so quickly depending on the people that you're with, the environments that you're in, the situations that you surround yourself with. So it is your energetic body that you are carrying, and it can change, or, depending on if you are kind of in like the same environments every single day, it can also, stay the same in some senses. But it's something to really be mindful of as far as your energy. If you feel that you are in places that kind of just energetically deplete you or help your energy rise. So it's really just your energetic vibration.
How does being the people that are empaths
Mhm.
and soak up other people's energies, does that affect your aura?
Oh, 100%. So empaths need especially to be so mindful of this, just because they especially can take on the energy of other people, and different situations and environments that they're in. So yes, absolutely. That's something to be very mindful of. If you happen to absorb a lot of energy, if you happen to feel a lot of people's energy, it can absolutely stay in your energetic field. And that's what's interesting when I do a reading, because sometimes I will see energies that don't belong to the person. Like I'll pick up on something and start to ask them about things that I'm noticing, and it won't resonate. And that will be my indication to say, is there somebody else that this could possibly be tied to? And then it's like, yes, we hit the nail on the head. And so, yes, you can absolutely absorb other energies that are not yours, especially if you're empathic.
Is there a quick way that you can protect yourself from that? And then if you are taking on, how can you release that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the quickest and like most potent way that I will say to be mindful of is to anytime that you are talking, like this is even having conversations. If you're having conversations with people that you have an inkling that like you're probably going to be energetically depleted after the conversation. If you're going somewhere where there's like a lot of chaotic energy, like my mind goes to Costco. Like anytime I go to Costco, it's always like chaos everywhere.
Mhm.
But if you're going to somewhere where you feel like there is just going to be an overwhelm of emotions, if you are picturing yourself surrounded by a bubble of white light of protection, but also to the top being open so that you can send out loving energy. That is like a surefire way to protect yourself from absorbing any negative energy that's not yours whenever you are in those situations. And also, like a quick way to cleanse that and to ward off any of that energy is there's two really quick ways that you can do that. One, sunlight. Sunlight is extremely powerful for cleansing and
Mm.
just ridding yourself of any negative energy. It's very simple, very powerful. But, I was an esthetician for a very long time. So I'm always going to say if you go into the sunlight, make sure you're wearing your SPF, protect yourself. And also, Epsom salt baths are very powerful for cleansing your aura too.
Okay, interesting. What are some common misconceptions that people have about auras and aura readings?
Yeah, so one thing that I actually just did a video on this because somebody had talked about having to expand your aura. And it was funny because I just woken up and I came across this video and like I was still in my pajamas and I'm like, I need to make a video about this because I want people to know what happens in regards to expanding your aura. So essentially, there are different shapes of your aura. There are square, round, and oval.
Interesting.
Oval is the shape that we all aspire to be. So like when you think of very spiritual people, spiritual leaders, they will more than likely have that oval pointed aura because they've mastered a lot of life lessons and they're very far along on their spiritual journey. We often, as humans, we will go between the oval shape and the round shape because, sometimes we'll be further along on our journey and then stuff will happen that, we shift to a more round shape. It's not anything bad. It's just there's more life lessons or things that we need to learn and get past. The square shaped is a result of spiritual misuse. So, when we think about people who are like lying, stealing, cheating, they happen to be caught up in like negative, toxic habits. That's when that more square shape will start to form. So, like, when we think about expanding the aura, that's not necessarily the direction that we want to go. We want to go towards more of the oval shape, but that's definitely a misconception with it. I think another one too, and I think this is just personal to me, is that I don't do an aura reading just to be like, hey, you got like blue in your aura, like you're a creative soul. The colors fall on a spectrum. So like a bright blue is going to have a very different meaning than like a moody blue. So I think the common misconception with that is that just one color doesn't represent the entirety. Like it falls on a spectrum of different shades. So that's something to be mindful of if you get your aura read. If they say a color, make sure that you're asking like, well, what shade is that color? Like, are we talking a blush pink or a hot pink? Because it has a lot of different meanings depending on the shade and whether it's brighter or dimmer.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I could see that. When you do an aura reading, what kind of information do you typically receive, and how did you learn to interpret it? I mean, was it kind of trial and error, or did you like study it? How did you figure out that?
So a lot of the information that I'll receive, I never know what's going to come through. Sometimes it will be related to some health stuff to be mindful of, because the aura is compromised of health divisions too. So these are lines that shoot out from starting at our shoulders down towards our feet. If we're in, great, perfect health, then these lines will be this like bright silvery color. If there's something going on, those lines will be like a dull metal gray and drew closer to the body. Also, too, there will be like rips and tears in the aura, so to speak. So if there is something that is going on with that, then like that will show in that way. If there is confusion going on as far as if somebody is having repetitive negative thoughts, like if there's something that's weighing heavily on their mind and they're constantly thinking about it, that can show up in the form of thought forms that we need to be mindful of and pay attention to. If there is anger or resentment that's built up, that could come through. Also, too, like parts of the personality that may have been repressed or like put on the back burner, so to speak. So if somebody is really gifted musically, and like they haven't been doing that, that may come through as a creative like color that is just very, very dim, that all of a sudden is just like, hey, have you tapped into that? Because it's wanting to come through, but like it just keeps on getting pushed down. So I think it's interesting as far as all of the different things that can come through with an aura reading. But no, when I learned that I can see auras, like I said, I took it very seriously. I studied so many different materials as far as like books, podcasts, different things by all different types of readers, because I wanted to get everybody's opinion on, what they thought the colors represented. And there are a lot of people that are very, very knowledgeable in the field of reading auras. So there was a lot of great information that I was able to read up on, and also like with the practice with myself and doing readings. So it was really just a culmination of educating myself, really learning as much as I can from as many different people in the field, and also too from a lot of practice and like really just understanding the different similarities that were coming through.
How long did it take you to kind of trust yourself? Because I don't know, I'm kind of I've been sensitive my whole life, and that's always been tough for me. Even though like I get all of these affirmations all the time, I'm still like, I don't know, I don't really think I have this gift. It's just it's hard for me to trust it and believe it a lot of times. So how long did it take you to kind of trust that you knew what you were doing? And
Yeah. So when it came to doing readings, I did a lot of free readings for a very long time with people that I did not know. I'm considered a group expert in a space that has over 1 million people in it on a Facebook group. And I would offer to do readings just so people can get to know me and be familiar with who I was and the work that I was doing. And I think by just doing that enough times, it was really good to build up my confidence, because the thing of it was, if I were to do it with family and friends, there was so much that I already knew
hmm
that I felt it would be a biased reading. Like I
yeah,
already know what's going on in your life. So I had to do it with people that I did not know. And people were jumping at the seams, like for me to practice on them and let them do it. Like, okay, something free, they were all for it. So I think after doing it enough times for people and really getting the confirmations that what I was seeing was very accurate with what was happening in their lives, that's what really made me start to trust myself more with it.
that's so scary though, putting yourself out there like that. Oh. Can you share how someone might notice the effects their aura in their daily life without even realizing it? How does it
Ah,
affect us in our daily lives?
yeah. So I would say if you are just not feeling like yourself, we all have those days, right? Where
hmm
we wake up and we're just kind of going about our days and we're just like in a funk. Like something just feels off and something doesn't feel right. That is a good indication to kind of check in to see if there's possibly something going on with your aura. Because if the day prior, everything was like everything's flowing the way that it needed to. Life was like good for the most part. Like, obviously, life has its obstacles, but you're just skirting by, like, you're doing well. I think it's really interesting when you can feel your energy shift. So, I think in those instances, it's good to pay attention to figure out if it's your energy or it's somebody else's, because you can, rationally go through the list of things like, okay, well, yeah, I still need to eat lunch, so I may be a little bit hangry, so to speak. I have X, Y, and Z to do, so maybe I'm just like having anxiety about that. But it's really more or less the days that you feel a little bit off. That's when I think it's something to pay attention to after you go down the list. If nothing's like really making sense as to why you're feeling that way, there's more than likely something going on energetically.
Yeah, it makes sense. How can understanding and working with your aura support healing from like trauma or emotional heaviness?
Yeah. So when I kind of look at it as like a rabbit hole when I'm doing a reading, because I'm just going to use this as an example. This didn't actually happen with a client, but I think it's a good example to kind of put it into perspective. Um, so if I'm doing a reading and say I were to see a cocoa brown in their auric field, in like the emotional layer, it is usually like a representation of like pettiness. Like someone's just like feeling like petty thoughts. And if I ask them, okay, this color is showing up, like, did you recently get into an argument with somebody, or like, are you kind of holding some resentment? And they can say, like, oh, I have somebody at work that is just like a bully and like they won't stop. And, you know, going back to previous conversations, we may understand that, like, okay, this person has a, trauma of not speaking up for themselves and like feeling like they've been walked over their entire life. Okay, well, maybe this is tied into a bit of a growth lesson for them to find that confidence to speak up for themselves. And then we kind of go a little bit further down the line, but it can very much tie into different things that are happening. And as far as like life lessons, how we incorporate the healing into that, how we work through that, and how we get to the other side.
Are there any correlations with the chakras and those colors into the aura at all?
So the chakras are connected to the different layers, but when it comes to like the specific colors, I wouldn't say that it's connected necessarily to the chakras. So like with the purple, obviously we know that that's connected to the crown chakra. So whenever I see purple in the aura, like if it's kind of in like little specks, I will use that usually as a representation of like there are spirit guides around you, there is a lot of spiritual activity. So, in a sense, it can be connected to certain chakras, but it's more or less connected to the chakras and the layers, not so much like the specific colors, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Are there particular colors or patterns in an aura that indicate specific emotional or physical challenges?
Yeah. So it definitely with so you could think of the colors in the aura as in like two categories, enlightened and unenlightened energies. So enlightened energies are going to be those beautiful bright colors that like you can think of as far as like your blues, your greens, your yellows, your reds, oranges. And then the unenlightened will be like those darker energies. So like you think of like mustard yellow, avocado green, browns, and like blacks, so to speak. So usually whenever I see those unenlightened colors, there's something going on as far as either we're harboring anger, we're harboring resentment. It's an energy that's not necessarily theirs. But if it's more of like the bright, vibrant colors that I'm seeing, then it's more or less tied to their creative abilities and talents. It's tied to their personality traits. It's tied to things that are going on in their life that they're currently working through.
How often, I mean, it almost sounds like this should be something people should be doing, like a almost part of their, you know, mental and physical health. So how often
I
should people get readings?
I thank you so much for saying that because I couldn't agree more. But the thing of it is I always say gauge it by how you feel. Don't schedule it like as a once a month, like you're going to get your nails done, because you may not need it. Like I would say, gauge it how you feel. If you feel like you are in a good place, more than likely yours good. Like you're doing just fine. But if you are going through a heavy life transition, if you are feeling energetically blocked and stuck, if you are just like not feeling you, I have a lot of people that go through their spiritual awakenings and they go through that period of the dark night of the soul, and like sometimes they cannot get out of it no matter what they're doing. They just feel so energetically stuck. That's when it's a good time to utilize this, because we may see colors that they may need to, pay more attention to kind of help reel them out. Like a perfect example, somebody that I did read for, they had a little bit of blue that was coming through, this like little speck of powder blue. And I had asked them about it, like, this is kind of lingering around. I don't know if you are tapping into like any creativity at the moment or what's going on with that. And she had said, you know what, it's funny. Like I used to be really, really creative when I was younger, and I used to make jewelry and do all that. And like I thought about doing that, but like I just didn't. And I'm like, I think that's really going to help you, like really try and hone in on that. And it's those little tidbits that all it takes is just like that little piece of information to get you into doing something to pull yourself out of that. So that's where I really recommend, if you are going through a lot of shifts, if there's like a lot of heaviness going on, then like it's probably a good time to do it. But also too, if you feel like you're in a good spot, then more than likely you don't necessarily need it.
Do you ever get anyone that maybe got a recent diagnosis of something, and would an aura reading help with that?
So I think when it comes to medical stuff, I don't like, if I see something, I will ask them if there is anything, like if I happen to see like a rip or tear in the aura going on, I might ask them like, is there anything health wise that's going on that you want to just let me know about? And then they'll validate that and say like there's actually, something along these lines. Health is a tricky one because I never want to tell people like, don't do this, don't do that, don't like, because everyone has their own free will and they work with doctors, and like that's just a whole other realm. But I will say that some physical manifestations that happen are a result of our emotions. And that's where it can be really helpful to read that, because, if we're holding a lot of emotional tension, that can manifest in the body as like headaches, stomach issues, different things of that nature. So that is where I come in with that piece of it. And I say, just be mindful, like, of let's release this, because if I'm hearing that like stomach issues are occurring and like they're under a lot of stress, okay, like let's work on where we can clear some of that stress out and help you, because that may alleviate some of the stomach stuff that's going on if there is not a medical diagnosis tied to that.
Yeah, it's amazing how the medical communities hasn't really caught up to that yet, that, what happens, like through trauma or things that have happened to us emotionally can affect us physically, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how does your background in mental health and addictions influence the way that you approach aura readings?
I think I'm just very in tune with reading the person when I'm doing it and being able to deliver the message in a way that feels not judgmental, that feels more like I'm here to help and understand how I can help you, and not deliver it in a way that seems very insensitive. Um, I've had readings done, not aura readings, but I've had readings done where it came across very blunt, And the advice that they were giving me was just very like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it's kind of through those experiences that I learned I'm like, okay, like there needs to be a little bit more compassion here when we're delivering something that can be, very mind-blowing and that would kind of just alter everything that we are thinking. So I think having that background, I think that that's what makes me be able to do ratings to hold a safe space so that people feel like they're coming to a safe space when they're having a reading with me. They know that they're going to be seen and heard and feel validated, and they're not going to feel judged. They know that I'm there to help. So I think had I not had the background in mental health prior to being able to do this, I think I wouldn't have that knowledge to hold that space like I do. So I'm very glad that I had that background prior to me being able to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see how important that is. And it's just funny as you're talking, I'm just like seeing the layers falling into place for you to like do your purpose, what you're doing now. That's just so cool. How life
Thank
does
you.
that. The universe does that. Can you describe a transformative moment that you witnessed in a client through your aura work?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to use myself for this answer because I was that, it's funny. We are so good at like practicing or like telling other people what to do, but when it comes to ourselves, like we can forget sometimes to practice what we preach. And I was just so like in the zone, not really paying attention to what was going on. I was going through a really like tough transition in life, and there was a lot of things happening at once, and I could just not pull myself out of this like I don't know what it was. It just felt like I was like kind of carrying like this like heavy burden that I couldn't let go of. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna check my own aura and like see what's going on. And once I started doing that, I didn't realize how much gray was surrounding me. And like that's a strong indication of depression, negative thinking, energy that wasn't mine. So I had to
Mm.
do a lot of work as far as like trying to energetically clear that and be mindful. And like that's something that I started doing like daily afterwards is like I started checking in with my aura to just see how it was doing until I felt a lot better. And had I not done that, I don't think I would have been able to take care of myself in the ways that I would have probably just kept on feeling like that. And who knows, I could have probably like made an appointment and with my doctor and said like I don't know what's going on. I just like I'm doing all the things that I feel like would up my energy and help, but like nothing's happening. And so I'm so glad that I did that and checked in and was able to see what was happening because that ultimately led me to help myself in a way that I didn't even realize was possible.
How do you check in with your aura? Is it something like you're standing in front of a mirror and you look at yourself, or is it
It's
like a
exactly that.
meditative thing? Like I
It's
don't know. What do you
it
do?
Yeah, no, I stand in front of a mirror like and I will stand back far enough that I can see the different layers that are coming through, and it's just like a quick little check-in of like, okay, what colors are coming through? Is there any thought forms? Is there any like negative energies that like I'm harboring or holding in, and really just make sure that like, okay, we're doing good. But like I will only do that if I'm in a funk or like something feels off. If I'm like waking up and I'm feeling good, I'm like, okay, there's no need to check in. I'm good. But if I'm feeling energetically depleted or like something's off, then I will absolutely check it. But yeah,
Is
just like you
it,
said, in a mirror.
yeah. Is it important to know what it is or what color it is? Or if you're just feeling off, can you just try to cleanse your aura? Or is it important to really know what was really going on?
So it's important to know, because with the colors, like I said, they all fall on a spectrum of the different shades. So if I'm looking in the mirror and like I see a bright green, like a bright apple green, then that is a strong indication that I'm going through something like I'm advancing more and like learning more spiritual lessons. But like if it's an avocado green that I'm seeing, then it may be because there's like a little bit of jealousy or like resentment that I'm harboring or something along those lines. So it's important to know what those colors are so that I can really kind of hone in on like, okay, what is that I'm because we think about there are things that happen that we don't necessarily, I think, consciously think about that we may be harboring until we kind of get smacked in the face with it. So it's a good point to know like what color for me specifically so that I can really kind of work through like, well, why is that color coming in? What is that tied to possibly? So it's important to know the color in that sense.
Okay, makes sense. How do you integrate your work as a spiritual life coach with aura reading to support long-term change?
Yeah. So I think just whatever comes through, depending on the different things, the different colors, if there is, say somebody is really just feeling like their job is weighing them down and they've always wanted to try a different career path. I may see a color in there that's indicative of something that they don't realize they're actually really good at, or something that they do know they're good at, but they just keep on pushing to the side. And it's kind of like that validation, just letting them know, like, hey, like, no, if you tapped into this, like, I think that you would surprise yourself. And they may come back and say, well, I've put in 30 plus years at doing this career. So like I can't make the change. And that's where I think the spiritual life coaching comes in as far as like getting to the root of like, well, why is it that you feel that you can't make the change? Is it because of safety and security, or like you feel like your identity is tied to that? Or there may be a bunch of different reasons they feel like stuck, like, or they're about to just like get a promotion. Okay, then we work through those different things as far as like what is keeping them there that they don't necessarily realize. And it's through those deeper conversations and understanding that we can really get to the root of the problem and really decide, is that something that we want to explore? Or maybe that's something that we just do as a hobby and like feed it that way rather than making a whole big life change.
Yeah. So if someone comes to you for a reading, do you just kind of see what comes up, or do they normally come in with a certain subject that they want you to, kind of tap into? How does that work if
I
someone gets a reading?
I kind of let them steer the ship as far as if there's anything that they want me to focus on, I will certainly do my best to see what comes through in regards to that. But if they kind of give me free rein and say I've been feeling X, Y, and Z, then I'm like, okay, let's see what comes through. And there are some interesting things that can pop through as far as like different colors or things that I'm seeing. But I usually kind of let them know if there's something specific that we want to concentrate on, then we can take it that way. Or if they're open, then we can kind of just see how it flows.
Okay, good to know. What advice would you give to someone that's curious about exploring auras, but they're kind of unsure or not sure where to start?
Yeah, I would say that reading energy, and this is just like a personal standpoint of mine, reading energy is a really cool thing, but it can also be incredibly overwhelming if you don't know how to turn that off. And it's something that you need to be prepared for and really kind of like understanding your reasons of why you do want to read energy and why you're drawn to it. Are you drawn to it because you want to help people? Are you drawn to it just out of curiosity for yourself? Because I think that's really like a good indication of where to go from there. If you're drawn to it because you really want to use it as a tool to help people, just know that like there is going to be a lot of different learning involved. There's going to be a lot of studying involved as far as like what the different colors mean and like the different different layers and divisions. It's not just colors. There's a lot to it. If you're looking more to just know it for yourself on like a personal level, there are so many people that do study auras and like so many people that you can learn from. I would really say find somebody that resonates with you because kind of like authors of books, like people may recommend X, Y, and Z book and you may read it and you're like it was good, but so like really find somebody that resonates with you, that you really respect and like in the field, and just kind of study what they're doing, learn from them, and then go on the path of like learning from other people after that. Because it's really like first shot out of the gate, you got to find somebody that you resonate with to kind of like pique your interest, or like that's when the interest kind of falls off if you kind of go down a path of like not connecting with somebody that you resonate with.
Okay. Makes sense. If someone wants to contact you for a reading, how can we find you?
Yeah, so the best ways to find me, so my website is imaginativehouse.com. From there, you can see all the different services that I offer, and you can book readings through there. You can also find me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Imaginative House, and I'm on TikTok as Aura Alamode. And through either of those, I have a link tree in my bio that you can go to book readings with me through that way as well. So, got a couple of different avenues you could go.
Awesome. We'll have all those links in the show notes if anyone wants to contact Samantha. Thank you so much. There was a lot more to this than I thought. I did think it was just colors and that was it.
There's a lot to it. I'm glad that, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it because there is a lot more to it than I think people realize.
Yeah. I mean, that's truly a gift that you have. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for listening today, Karma Crew. I hope this conversation with Samantha Brior sparked something for you. Her work as an aura reader and spiritual coach offers such a powerful lens into the energy that shapes our lives. If you have an out of the box healing modality, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out about becoming a guest on Mind Your Own Karma Beyond the Bandage. You can email me at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com. And if you're craving deeper personal work, I offer somatic mindful guided imagery sessions to help you heal trauma, build awareness, and shift from the inside out. Learn more in the show notes or at somatichealingjourneys.com. As always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.